Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Bingham, you stated, I believe in a hearing before the Senate Ag Committee, that following the collapse of FTX, that without any new authority, the CFTC, there would remain gaps in the federal regulatory framework. I think you kind of outlined them, even if other regulators act within their existing authority. What do you think are the lessons to be learned here from the collapse of FTX and how we prevent that from occurring again in the future?
Congressman, thanks for the question. And as I stated in my opening remarks, we had we regulated an FTX entity, LedgerX, and when I look at the scope of the bankruptcy, which was very significant globally, there was over 130 entities that had to file for bankruptcy.
Could you have anticipated beforehand of its downfall?
Yeah, so it's a good question because the lens with which we saw FTX was LedgerX, which was a highly regulated, well-resourced, well-governed entity. And that was the entity that we regulated and we focused on. To your point and your question, could we have anticipated or could we have seen? The answer is no. And the answer is because it's the reason I'm here today and what I've advocated is because we don't have authority over digital commodity tokens. And a lot of that activity occurred overseas, which is the first sort of primary barrier to our jurisdiction offshore. But the larger barrier, of course, is the fact that we don't have regulatory authority over entities that trade cash commodity tokens. So it is the area that we're here for today, and hopefully we can change so we can prevent those crises from happening again.
Well, you talk about overseas, and I remember when we were going through this challenge with the swaps a number of years ago, the committee actually went to Europe, and we met with a number of the financial institutions in London and Frankfurt, and we're trying to get a sense of what the Europeans were doing. And are there any lessons to be learned that you would cite from the framework that exists there today?
Yeah, Congressman, it's another great question. Our derivatives markets are global in nature.
Right.
And that is the way they function because we have large institutions needing to manage global risk.
Yeah, we're not an island here.
Yep, and I think this is, in many respects, the nature of digital assets is global. There are no barriers like there are in traditional markets. And I think it is important. I'm the vice chair of IOSCO, which is an international organization of securities commissioners. I participate in the Financial Stability Board. There are a lot of efforts at the global level to coordinate rules of the road. And as was mentioned by the chairman, Europe has moved on crypto regulation, the UK, Singapore, Hong Kong, and I think it's important that we gel our rules across borders.
So you think there are models there that we can follow with those?
Every jurisdiction is unique, and certainly in the U.S. market, we're the largest, deepest, and we have a variety and diverse set of institutions and market participants. But at a high level, they're certainly looking at the European model is a good mark, and some of the work that the UK and Singapore is doing as well is a good mark to start off with.
What fears do you have most in terms of if we continue to go as we are without the additional deficiencies that you outlined and that the chair and the ranking member discussed, if we just continue with the status quo? What's your biggest fear?
Congressman, the evidence is in our enforcement record, and I would even point to the SEC's enforcement record as well. We brought 82 cases over about 8 years, and this 82 cases for an agency that doesn't have regulatory authority. These are all cases that we've been having coming inbound, people have been telling us. And these are individuals and institutions that are losing money, that are getting hurt and getting duped. And my fear is if we don't address this issue from a legislative standpoint, we will continue to bring these cases. But as I point out, we're bringing these cases because of a very small authority that Congress provided. And my fear is that this is, I've said this in the past, the tip of the iceberg. And as this market ebbs and flows in size, which it has largely stabilized over the past 6 to 9 months, if it starts to peak and move into a direction of growing, you could potentially have financial stability risks and other concerns for financial markets.
Well, my time's expired, but Mr. Chairman and the ranking member, I think there obviously is work for us to do, and I think there is an opportunity here to establish a bipartisan framework in which we can accomplish that end to deal with the issues that have been presented, and I look forward to continuing to work on this effort.